Aloha, dear children. For the beginning of our third grade year, we will start with a project about, well, beginnings. The beginning of all beginnings. The beginning of the world, of people, of animals and plants. Everywhere you go in the world, different people have different stories and ideas about how the world began. We will be creating our own story through painting. I wonder if it will seem familiar or if it will feel brand new. Before we begin with the story of beginnings, let's take a look at the materials that you have to work with. In your bundle of materials for your creation projects, you should have received 6 colors of paint in individual containers: red, orange, golden yellow, lemon yellow, blue, and violet. You should have also received 1 paintbrush and 1 piece of a sponge. You should have also received 8 sheets of watercolor painting paper. Now, we will prepare this paper just like we used to do in class. But before we do that, I'll let you know that you will also need from home a rag or a paper towel to brush off the excess water from your brush, and a small glass or container full of clean water so that you can clean your paintbrush after dipping it in all the different colors. Before we soak your paper and prepare it, make sure that you have a nice, clean, flat surface for your paper to go on. It's going to get a little bit wet, so make sure that it is okay for your wet paper to be on that surface. Here I am at the classroom sink. Before we soak our paper, I want you to notice that it has 1 rough side and 1 smooth side. We will be soaking our painting paper and applying the paint to the rough side. So if you have a container like we do in class where you can soak the paper in, that would be best. But I have a feeling most of you just have a sink like I do here. Your first step is to turn the water on and get the page nice and wet. Be sure to get both sides when you get it wet. Mine has a little extra color from all these different paint bottles. Once your page is nice and wet, get some of the excess off by giving it a little shake so that it's not soaking wet. Once you pull your paper from the sink and it has been put under the water, bring it back over to your workspace. Now, if you're like me and you have a fan going, be very careful because that fan will very quickly dry out your page. And it's important for the page to remain kind of wet. Not soaking wet, but definitely damp. You might want to even turn the fan off. For example, mine is already feeling not so wet because I feel that fan whirring and blowing air onto my sheet. If you notice, mine also has air bubbles. We want to make sure that our painting paper is nice and flat. Again, with the rough side facing up, because that's the side that will absorb our paint the best. If your page is very wet, go ahead and take your sponge and dry off some of that excess water before you begin painting. Like I said before, my page is on the dry side, so I'm not going to apply the sponge. I might even take the sponge and put a bit more water on. And for this part, I trust you. I trust that you know if your page is way too wet or it feels a bit dry like mine did. I think you can find the happy medium. Not too wet and not too dry. And really work to get those bubbles out as best as you can. Okay, looks like we're almost ready to begin. There are a couple different ways we can do this, but the first step is to give it a little shake with your fingers firmly closing the container. Because remember, this paint can sometimes get little tiny bits of sediment at the bottom. So before you begin painting, it's nice to shake it up and distribute that sediment, that little bits of color knocked loose from the bottom so that it can be really integrated in there. 2 fingers on each side and just a quick little shake for nice rich color. Perhaps I should have done this before I wet my paper so that my paper could be ready to start instead of having to wait for the shake, shake, shake. Okay, when it's time to open these paints, I really want to remind you that we need to be careful. It is okay to ask an adult for help in this step because, boys and girls, if it spills, I'm not there to give you any more. So holding on to this paint tightly, go ahead and take the lids off and be sure not to drip this color onto your paper as you move the lid away. And open up your 6 colors, doing your best to not spill a drop. And it is easier said than done, I will tell you that. Even I have trouble. See, it's already kind of getting on me. Do your best to set up in a way. Oh, that one exploded a bit. You see what I mean? Just do your best. And you know, now that I think about it, I really do think I should have shake and opened up before I got my paper ready. Because that way I can avoid getting any unwanted color on these sheets. So I did not make the smartest decision, but I bet that you can. Shake your paint, open it up, then get your paper ready. I think that's the right order. So now my paper is ready, my paint has been shaken, and my lids have been taken off. And now I will go on to the next video, where we will start painting day 1 of creation. See you there.